morning, everybody. The idea behind this little session today was that today the conference is very much focused on new ideas, new ways of working, and doing things differently in your organisation. And I think sometimes we do forget the basics, and we wanted to kind of go over that a little bit. So the purpose of today is to just give you a few hints and tips from a funder's perspective of the sort of things that perhaps you can take away and do differently in your organisation today. So some of it is going to feel a little bit familiar to some of you, but we hope that there's going to be a few little tips that you can take back to your organisations in there. So just to introduce ourselves, I'm Rachel Billett. I'm working as a consultant with a number of funders, including Comic Relief, Legal Education Foundation and the Future Advice Fund Partnership, which is behind today's conference. I'm going to run through a few minutes on what to look for in a successful fundraising bid, what sort of things to avoid, and it's very tailored to this sector, so hopefully, whilst it might feel a little bit repetitive, it should have something useful for you today. Jackie is an expert on individual fundraising and is going to run through how you can make the best of your networks and your contacts. And Natalia's going to do the other side of things. We're going to talk about how to get the money. She's going to talk about how to keep it and how to maximise it and how to make some savings. We're going to leave a bit of time. We haven't got very long, but this workshop's a bit shorter than the others, and we could actually run a workshop or a whole day each probably. So we're going to whiz through this a little bit, I'm afraid. So can I ask you to keep questions until the end, unless there's something that you really have to clarify as we're going through, and then hopefully we can just have a bit of a frank and informal discussion, and it really is your chance to ask us, who are representatives and have worked with funders for many years and know a lot about different types of fundraising, just to get a bit of advice or share your experiences as well. So the tips, and this is in your pack, so apologies if you can't read this. These are things that we've kind of pulled together. As I said, they are things we see a lot in the advice sector. And I can see people around the room thinking, we do that. That's basic. It's far too basic for us. I can promise you, being really blunt from the other side, it isn't. So the first thing I really want to emphasise, and there's three of these points I really want to emphasise today, is to make sure that your application to the funder clearly meets their criteria and addresses them directly. Now, most funders are going to have several different criteria. They're not always going to spell them out in the same place. They're going to be looking for different things, so they might have particular outcomes they want to address. I've just been working on a programme that had 2 outcomes they wanted to address, and you would be amazed at the amount of groups who only address one of those. So they're immediately out. So I really can't spell that out enough. And this is coming from a little kind of mini survey of a few of us, so it's certainly something to think about. Secondly, it's to focus on the needs of your clients and the outcomes. What I've found in this sector is that you're brilliant at telling us what you're going to do, but you're not so good. This is a huge generalisation, so forgive me if I'm offending anybody, but it's less strong at articulating the why you're doing this. So what difference it's going to make. In fact, Lord Bark this morning talked about how it's going to change people's lives for the better. And I think we tend to forget in this sector to talk about the needs of people, a woman experiencing domestic violence. Her issues and the needs that she has need to be spelt out in that application. And then, yes, you might be providing specialist legal advice, but we want to, as funders, fully understand the impact of that, the outcomes for that client. Will she be safer as a result of what you've done? The next point's really very self-explanatory. Tell the story, really try and bring that alive. Give us some evidence, talk about the evidence from your own experiences, the number of bids that we see where people have been funding and delivering this work for a very long time, but they forget to tell us the impact of it. There's some great organisations here today who've got very high success rates, and a lot of you forget to tell us that. It's quite basic stuff, really. It's helpful for us to know why you're working in this way, the sort of why you have chosen to deliver this project. Why this solution? Is it cost effective? Have you got that track record in it? And to sort of give it some history and some context. Be specific. Tends not to be a massive problem in this sector, But if you know that you want to run 50 sessions over the next 50 weeks for 120 people, tell us. It's important to know. And again, it's that point about attention to detail matters. So really, the amount of bids that could be improved just by somebody else, either in your organisation or a trusted friend, just sitting down and reading it and seeing it, does it make sense? Does it hang together? Are you addressing the needs that you've stated you want to tackle? Does it ring true? We're not experts, you're the experts, but you need to communicate it clearly to us. Relationships with funders, important. I think we're all moving towards a way that a state where the funder is less remote than they have been. Even the really big funders now want to have a relationship with you. So get the advice from them, ring them up before you apply, have a chat if you're not sure. It's really worth doing that. And some of the funders, Legal Education Foundation, for example, are proactive. They will come out and speak to you, and they really want to hear from you. But even the ones that don't have a lot of capacity, they're really keen to just have a chat, and it will save everybody a lot of time and effort in the long term. Listen to feedback as well. I think sometimes it's really important. We have a phrase, you can't take a horse to water. Sometimes we offer feedback. We can't all do it. But I'd certainly say that if you do have it, try and take it on board and sort of take it in the spirit that it's offered. And I think the point that I really wanted to emphasise is try and keep a bit of an understanding of what funders' trends are, because funders they get into different things. They like different sectors. They like different jargon. They love different terms and different things. And at the moment, there's trends around early action, so preventative type work. There's a funders alliance around early action. They're interested in, and this is particularly relevant to the legal advice sector, they're interested in holistic work, so that addresses needs of all of the needs of a client. So they're much more interested in seeing partnerships or people coming together to work with a client on their many needs. And user-led is coming up again as a big thing. I think it's a struggle. I understand that in this sector, but it's certainly something to be really thinking about. How do you engage your clients in the management and planning of your services? It's something that funders used to look for a lot. It kind of died off a little bit. It's coming back big time now. I think people really want to see communities and users in the lead. And I think we also had a little flurry of interest in innovation. I think probably we're moving away from that a little bit. This is talking very generally, but people are also interested in funding proven approaches. So if there's one thing I wanted to say today about things to avoid, it's the language, it's the legalese and reference to complicated legal cases and acts and judgments. They pop up in a lot of specialist legal advice applications time and time again, and think about us. Don't make assumptions about what we know and what we understand about your sector. Usually, apart from possibly a couple of other of the big funders, we're working across a myriad of different sectors and issues, and we don't know the detail of what you're working on. So it's language, and I think Jackie's going to talk a little bit about this. I think most of these other points we have covered. I would say try not to rush your bid and really think it through. It does make sense to spend that time reading the guidance, make sure you've got enough time in there to get a decent decision, and try not to put all your eggs in one basket. The funding world is more competitive, we all know that, but with a bit of work you can try and shape your bid and give it the highest chance it's got of some success. And I think that final point there, it's about take this as an opportunity to sell your organisation, because if you don't, who else is going to do that? So that's a massively quick rush through and we're really happy to chat. We're here in the coffee break. I'm very happy to sort of answer more detailed questions, but I think it's really important to hear from Jackie, who's going to actually take us a little bit further away from just thinking about funding bids and look at different ways of getting funding from different sources. Thank you.
Hello. Now I have to. I need to
do that whilst you start.
The middle one, is it? Yeah. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Does that say from beginning there? Great. Okay, so I'm Jackie Scott. I like to say I'm a fundraiser, but I think I'm properly supposed to say I'm a fundraising consultant. But I say I provide no-nonsense fundraising support, so I'm a bit of a no bullshit with me, please. And that's why I like to work with people that I work with and to keep things very open and honest with us. My background is as a fundraiser, so I've worked for a range of different organisations, Terence Higgins Trust, Bouquet International, and more recently as a consultant with organisations that you'll be familiar with, like Reprieve and BID and so on, and increasingly doing more work with legal advice sector organisations. At the moment with Rachel and Natalia, I'm working on a project with the Future Advice Fund looking at building fundraising capacity with some of the grant recipients there so that they can develop their abilities to fundraise beyond grant-making trusts. So I'm going to tell you a little bit, and it's going to be a very little bit, about individuals fundraising. I want to make a point that I'm not going to talk about data protection, but it is, if you do anything with individuals fundraising, you need to think about your data protection processes. I'm operating on the assumption that if you're working in legal advice, you're really good at data protection, way better than me, so I'm not going to talk about it, but just in the back of your mind, you're dealing with people's names, addresses, and credit card numbers, so you have to think data protection. And I'm going to try and keep it as straightforward as possible today, and I'm only going to ask you to remember 3 things from what I say. I might test you later if I see you over coffee. Okay, so just to give you an understanding of what we're talking about when we talk about individual giving, we all do it. You know, if you put a 10p change in your local corner shop in the collection bin, or if you have a £10 a month direct debit to a charity, or if you go to an event run by a charity, you're all part of individual giving. Things like the London Legal Walk, that type of event, sponsored activities and so on, that is all individual giving. And it's a really huge and important part of the charity sector in this country. Charities Aid Foundation estimate it as about £10 billion a year comes into the charity sector through individual giving. And to look at that on the exact opposite side, it's about the same as the amount of money that comes into the sector from grant-making trusts. So if you're not doing anything with individual giving, you can actually look at it and think, well, we're missing out half our potential income here because 10 billion going into the sector from grant-making trusts, there's another 10 billion out there from individuals. And even in the current climate, and we've all heard about the terrible things that charities have been doing with their donors recently, even in this climate, this is still a very successful, very solid form of fundraising. And you can get very, very good returns on your investment for it. And I'm not going to talk to you today about spending hundreds of thousands of pounds on direct mail and so on. I'm going to talk to you about things that are a bit easier and cheaper for you to do. But as a program of individual giving grows, it requires some investment, and it's a good investment to make because it will almost certainly get a very good return on investment. And some charities would get, you know, a £10 return on investment for every pound they spend. It's very effective. Okay, this is a concept many of you are probably familiar with. If you've ever done any workshops in fundraising, you've probably seen this, so I'm not going to go into big detail about it. But it's just to give you a bit of an idea on how, as an individual's fundraising program would develop, how you would expect it to shape up. And so at the bottom of your pyramid, you would have the I hate saying it this way, but the lower value gifts from things like, you know, low-cost events or sponsored activities, and all of the many, many people that would be taking part in that sort of thing to give you, you know, up to maybe, say, a quarter of your income. And the reason it's in a pyramid is because the idea is that you move people through that pyramid. So you start off with somebody who's your sponsor for a running event or your runner for a running event, and you want to turn them into a donor themselves. So you turn them into a cash giver, and maybe that's about 20% of your income from individuals. And as your relationship moves on, you want to get them giving regularly. So you want them to give by direct debit if you're unable to do that, or standing orders. There's lots of services out there who can enable you to do direct debit. I've set up direct debit for a couple of organisations for them to run it themselves, and it's a real nightmare, and it takes months, and your trustees are signing their lives away in blood. And you actually have a couple of services out there through Just Giving and through CAF, who can take all of that hassle away. So there's lots of easy ways of enabling this kind of administrative thing, so that you can actually get people giving you £5 a month, and 10 people giving you £5 a month is 50 quid, and 20 people is 100. You know, it's really worthwhile effort. Then at the top of your pyramid, and I'm always a bit cynical about this, because at the top of your pyramid should be your major donors, and the theory is that you bring your major donors up from underneath. I don't think that really works. I don't think many major donors start off running events, although there's been some famous examples. But you should expect to see major donors in your mix of individual giving income. And I've seen I've seen a number of charities who, that's the bulk of their individual giving, is from major donors. And those charities, even though quite small and quite niche and quite controversial, are attracting quite high value donors who are really interested in helping them shout out about, you know, civil liberties and that kind of thing. So it's a really interesting part of the fundraising pyramid. Now, for almost everybody here, if you have a social media account, you've probably got what I would think of as being kind of dormant potential donors sitting around in your social media. And I'm not going to talk a lot about that, but if you have people who are friends with you on Facebook or active on Twitter, retweeting you and so on, think of them as being potential individual donors. Okay, so that's just to give you a bit of an overview. That's kind of like the core of individuals' fundraising theory. This is where I want you to start remembering it. So the first thing to remember is you have to keep records. So you have every one of you. I bet if I asked you to write 10 names down now, you could all do it easily, of who you're connected to within your organisation. You have trustees, you have service users, because even though when you're working with them, they might be absolutely destitute and the poorest of the poor, you're working with them to stop that being the case in their lives. And in 5 years' time, they may not be in that position anymore. In 5 years' time, they might have 100 quid they could give you. So you need to keep records of that kind of thing, so that you have, you know, people that you can approach later. So everybody who's working with you, your pro bonos, suppliers, volunteers, anybody who does sponsor fundraisers, everybody that you have connections with, you need to keep records of them, keep records of what they've done for you, keep records of any donations they've made for you, and so on. And there's lots of easy ways of doing that. You can just use Excel if it's a small number of people. Salesforce have a free database and so on, but you just need to keep those records. That's not just me, is it?
That knows before.
Good. I thought it'd gone horribly over my time. And then you need to keep in touch with people. And actually now we're gifted with all of these free ways of keeping in touch with people, and tell them the real stories about the people that you're working with. And this is where language becomes incredibly important, because it is easy to talk what I think of as being kind of policy language and jargon, and you're probably really used to that, and that's the kind of level of conversation you have with your colleagues and so on. But actually, you need to make people cry. If you're going to ask them for money and say, we need your money to sort this problem out, you have to tear at their heart a little bit. And it doesn't always come naturally, but it's a really important thing to do. And the best way of doing it where you can is to get your clients or beneficiaries to speak for you. And it's really complicated and it's difficult, and there's lots of barriers to doing that. But where you can, you get their voices heard, and that's actually what compels people to give. And there's lots of different ways you can do it. You know, that's a list. But for each organisation, there might be another 10 things that actually make sense for you to be able to keep in touch with the people that you're keeping records of. There's also some evidence that says that when we make decisions, even when we think we're making a decision which is very logical and based on fact, we're actually making our decision based on our emotional response. So that's really important. That's why you have to really appeal to people's hearts. And the last thing to remember is to keep trying, because when you talk to 100 people, and you know, if I said to all of you now, could you each give me a quid at the end of the session? You know, maybe 2 of you would, feeling a bit sorry for me. You can never expect everybody to respond the first time. It just doesn't work like that. It is progressive. You have to keep going back, and you have to keep changing how you talk to people and making sure that you're building up a relationship and building up a picture with them of what you do. But we have all of these great tools for being able to do that. And when somebody doesn't respond, or if they say no, it doesn't necessarily mean no, never again. It might mean that they're just not ready for it at the moment, or you need to convince them a little bit more. And there's so much competition out there. For every time you have a conversation with somebody saying, could you give us a fiver? They've probably received something that week from NSPCC and Heart UK and Age UK. You know, there's a lot of competition, so there's a lot of noise around them. But there's 10 billion quid going into individual giving in this country every year. So there is great potential out there. And if you don't ask your contacts for money, they won't give it to you. So I would encourage you all to do what you can to ask. Over to Natalia.
Oh, everyone's been very good and on time. Right.
Wow.
I'm impressed. Okay, I'll do my best as well. Okay, so this is kind of the other side of things. You are pulling in lots of money, you've got individual donations coming in, regular donors, one-off donors, you've got grant income coming in. How are you going to make the most of that money? Now, this is a bit of a project that we've been doing at the London Legal Support Trust because we do both of these things. We are fundraisers and then we give out our money in grants. So we want to make sure that money is going as far as possible because we know how hard it is to get it in and actually to give it out, surprisingly. So, the one takeaway I have for you is where to look. So we've now started putting some of this money saving advice up on Legal Voice. I've got a little tiny URL there to help, but if you go to Legal Voice, it's under the practice management section, or if you look under me as an author, you'll find it all under there as well. That is just a start. There is so much more we could add to that. And one of the things I'd be really interested in is when I'm going through this, if any of you think, oh, but she never mentioned this really good scheme I know of, or this free resource, come and talk to me about it. We can get it up there. Let's share it with everyone else. Okay, so the big question, why bother? Lots of people have said at different points when I've talked to them about this, but that's not going to make any difference. Saving a few pence here and there, saving a couple of pounds on some stationery, that's not going to change anything. So I've tried to, in typical kind of reverse salesperson way, pick up some really quick and easy examples of how you can save some money. So these aren't necessarily the biggest savings that you could make, but they are very quick and easy ones. And hopefully you'll see that they do add up. So, energy bills. Hopefully this is ringing bells with some of you, but potentially not everyone. Registered charities shouldn't be paying full VAT on their energy bills. You should only be paying 5%. And you actually get another reduction from the climate change levy as well, which is a much more complicated formula, but it is more money off. Good news is, if you go back and you have a little look at your bills and you see you have been overpaying, you can actually reclaim that. I've heard of charities who've gone to their energy companies, said, oh, we just had you down as a business, we didn't realise because you're a limited company, we assumed you're a business, we'll credit you with the money that we've overcharged you. So, one such organisation that we know about, so small office, 8 to 10 staff, annual energy bill in the region, £20,000. So every year now, they're going to be saving around £250, but also they got a lump sum of £750. Not small fry. The other question, of course, everyone knows now that we should all be changing in our personal lives energy supplier. When was the last time your office changed their energy supplier? There's exactly the same things out there that there are for individuals. Their website, Uswitch, has a business website. Utility Aid is specifically designed for charities to help them change energy supplier. There's all kind of consortiums to do this as well. And all you need to do is provide the information and they will do this stuff for you. Again, it could save you loads. They say that an average customer will save about 20%. If that's a £2,000 energy bill, another £200 every year. And that's the thing, this is an ongoing amount. This isn't like a one-off saving. You're actually going to carry that on. Very quick fly through this. London Legal Support Trust have set up a stationery buying group. Anybody can join, very welcome to. It basically is the simple principle that our buying power together is so much bigger. There's about 50 organisations now involved. We have an annual spend of about £33,000 a year now. We can negotiate really well with stationery companies. London Legal Support Trust has an annual spend of about £200. Can you imagine me spending the time and energy arguing about our paper prices? But it just wouldn't make sense. But if we all get together, obviously it makes a much, much bigger difference. Just to clarify, because people always think that this is some shady business deal going on, I promise I get no free speakers, chocolates, anything else. There's no pressure to it. It's a service that we provide because we support the sector generally, so why wouldn't we want you to save money? Again, the why bother, time savings. You don't have to have chats with your stationery company. If you want to, you're very welcome to. They will still speak to you individually. But it's a great time saving if not. And between 50 organisations, that really adds up. And also the saving on prices. We've driven them down. We want to keep doing it more. If you want to get involved, they'll do an audit and make sure that you will be saving money. If you get anything cheaper, we'll get it cheaper for everyone. So the other 50 organisations will get it cheaper too. Another quick one that commonly people waste money on. Monthly bank charges. Do you have to pay them? Lots of people say yes, business accounts, you always have to pay a monthly bank charge. You don't. Cooperative Bank and CAF both offer a free account. Yes, there are obviously charges that go with other things, but you know, if you have lots of foreign transactions, maybe it would be cheaper, but definitely something to look at. And they do online store and telephone banking. CAF are set up particularly for charities. You can get online banking with double authorisation built in. Not many high street banks can offer that. And in comparison, I looked at 3 high street banks. They were all charging about £5 a month for a business account. So again, another £60 a year you can save. Online fundraising platforms. I should have really spoken to Jackie about this beforehand because she did mention Just Giving. I'm afraid I have to say that I would say if you're on Just Giving, you should be leaving it. They are the most expensive platform around. They are the one everyone knows. They were the original one, and they are definitely the most famous, and everyone will call whatever platform you're on Just Giving. But it's like Hoover, you know, it's a brand name. £18 a month, and the highest fees of any of the online platforms. There are a number of cheaper options. The one that we're recommending is BT My Donate because some of the others aren't particularly underwritten by anyone that maybe you would trust, and there have been cases where there've been online platforms that have gone bust and the charities haven't got their money. So don't want that to happen. Can't imagine BT would let that happen. They've invested a lot of money in BT My Donate. It looks just like Just Giving. It does pretty much everything that Just Giving does. And it's their CSR. That's basically, they've decided to channel their CSR efforts and money this way. There is no fee. There are no monthly fees. There is nothing to sign up. It's got the lowest card processing fees, and they don't make a profit out of anything. So even if you're just, say you're not raising anything through Just Giving, you're just paying the fee, that's £216 a year. But also, on BT My Donate, you'll get an extra 65p on every £10 plus gift aid that you get. So it really adds up when you think about it. There's also information on the website. There's no point going through all these, but there's information on the website about more free stuff that you can get as charities, just for being charities. You don't have to do anything, you don't have to apply for anything, you don't have to prove anything, just because you're a charity. Office 365, online email server from Microsoft, you get free licenses through that. And also then your IT support costs should be cheaper because the email server is the most complicated bit. So it's unlikely that you'll keep having server problems if you get your email server in the clouds. Salesforce, Jackie mentioned, brilliant contact management system. Again, 10 free licenses for charities. Yes, you'll need a volunteer or you'll need to pay somebody to help you set it up, unless you know somebody who's skilled in that anyway. But it is incredible. We use it at LST. We had a volunteer set it up. We use it to track all our fundraising events, all our contacts, all 3,500 of them, all the grants we give out, all our finances. It really is endless. And I know quite a lot of advice organisations are looking at it. I know a few who already use it. So if you're interested, we can link you up and you can speak to them about how they use it and how it works for them. Clio Case Management is quite an interesting one, case management software, who are saying that for free legal advice charities who are linked to law students, they will give licenses for free. If it's a kind of official link, that's really easy. If you already work with a university or a college, they will just give it to you. It's their marketing model. They want to get the law students loving their software so that in the future, when they are lawyers and partners, they will be pushing that that's the software they want to use. And if you've just got a few law students who come in, you need to speak to them. They won't commit either way, basically. But they have said that if you don't kind of meet the threshold that they want for the free software, they will give you a 50% discount. So again, interesting one to have a look at. Skilled volunteers, loads of different places to find those, loads of different websites, from IT volunteers to comms volunteers to mentoring, all kinds of things. And also this bit up there about data wiping and recycling. There's also companies who offer free checks for charities on telephone systems. Are you getting the best deal with all the crazy new software that's out there now and the new technology, VoIP and everything else? Could you have that? Would it be better? What would work best for you? Again, if these people are willing to come in for free and have a look and offer you alternatives which cost less, why wouldn't you spend the time? And IT setup as well, there's been some offers for that as well. So a few group things that we know about. Software licenses, you shouldn't be paying more than £20 to £25 for a Microsoft Office Professional full license. TT Exchange goes for loads of different ones. If you're buying new software, just look up TT Exchange. The last two are things that we've joined in on with other companies. So they have huge contracts that are worth massive amounts of money. Obviously, you know, each one of us probably has one photocopy, if that. But they've let us join in the group because they've already spent the time negotiating, arguing about it all. We're just joining on. Again, all those details up on Legal Voice to have a look at as well. And we are looking into more stuff. And as I say, I'm hoping that the more people start using the money-saving part of the website and realising kind of what is out there, people will also share new ideas and we can get them up there as well. So I think that's it. So yeah, my key things, just look at Legal Voice, have a look at what is there, keep checking back there as we're adding more stuff, and question your costs. Set it as a project for somebody. It's quite fun once you get into it and you start realising the money that actually you could save. And the organisations that I've seen who've saved the most money is when someone really gets into it, gets into the game and realises that it's just as much as a decent, small grant. And let us know about any other schemes to add. And if you are buying anything, whether you're recarpeting your office or buying 3 new laptops, negotiate. Don't just take their first price. Usually by asking, they will knock something off straight away. Think about what you can offer. Could you have a plaque up? Could you tweet about it? Could you let all your supporters know? Could you let all the pro bono lawyers that you know about what they've done for you, how they've supported you, what they gave you extra on top of what you were going to buy anyway? And yeah, that's really it.